All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whatever time zone you're a part of. I almost paused for a second to gather my thoughts. It's been a while since I recorded an episode, but welcome back to the podcast, everybody. The Raw Podcast. I'm your host, Rahsaan Corbin II, and we're back with more content, better than ever. I say better than ever because we're always steadily improving, especially when it comes to content we're sharing with our viewers. Well, yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. I'm trying to figure out how to segue back into this. But long story short, we have another special guest today. And I always preface this, all my guests are special. However, when it comes to Malachi battle, him and I have had a friendship about the past 2 years or so, and he helped me during my time as president. I helped him during his time as president. And I thought you'd be a good person to have on the podcast. So welcome, Malachi.
What's up, man? I'm glad you had me on. I appreciate it a lot.
Man, also, another preface. It's been a minute since Malachi and I have talked. He
Mm.
called me out the blue like 3 weeks ago. He's like, "Hey, bro, I'm sorry I ain't get on the podcast yet." Da, 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 da. I'm like, "It's cool, it's cool. I know life gets to you, but I'm
Yeah.
glad we're able to set this up. It gives me an excuse to catch up with you even more now. So
Right. Yeah.
I'm glad to have you here. But for starters, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing good today. I um I don't know. It's the weather. I don't know what's been going on with my voice. So we might hear a little bit of what I'm saying, every once in a while. But for the most part, I've been doing good, man. Just working, getting ready to move for my job, um, and growing.
Got you. Yeah, you sound like alfalfa right now with the voice crack noise. I mess with you, but appreciate you being on once again. Glad you're doing good. So we're gonna get started with an icebreaker before we get into the interview. So before I go into this icebreaker, there's two icebreakers I can do right now. For one, I'll go with the first option. Do you have Spotify or Apple Music?
I do.
You do. Which one do you have?
I have Apple Music, but bro,
Yeah.
my replay is wrong. But it is because I got an Apple TV and I got like the newest generation like a few months ago. And
Mm.
my nieces be listening to Trolls and and some other band. So I was so hyped this morning because I was like, oh, the replays out. I'm seeing on everybody's story. And I opened mine, it's like 996 artists. One of them stood out. Trolls. I was like, what? And it did the same thing for the music. I was so mad. But like, I guess my actual artists, a couple of them are on there. You want me to share it?
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead. That's what the icebreakers for. That's what I was gonna lead into.
Man, I was so mad, man. 'Cause I was like, come on, y'all. I do not listen to trolls. It is bad music, but um, all right, let's see. Might have to skip through a little bit. Okay.
All right.
So my top artist outside of um
Trolls.
which I also for some reason don't believe because I don't listen to Kendrick Lamar, but it has at its first. I don't remember listening. I think my thing is just wrong, bro. I don't know what's, but I don't listen to Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
I listen to I like a couple songs he's got. I like Love, Loyalty.
Mm.
Um, that's about it.
Yeah.
I don't know, but this one's probably accurate. Naviel the Servant. So he's a Hebrew artist.
Mm.
The Dramatics, that's number two for me. I love them a lot. They are a great top 10 band. Um, and then another one was Paisley the Hebrew. Um, which is weird. And my top artists don't even match my top songs. So bro, I don't know what's going on, man. Top song for me was Alabaster Box by CC
Mm.
Winans. Number two was Be Sure by Karen Clark Sheard. Number three was Belly by Eshawn Burgundy. And number four was First Always by Jonathan McReynolds. And number five is not, no.
Got you. Yeah, at the time of this recording, Spotify just dropped the Spotify Wrapped at 8 a.m. this morning. So as soon as I got to work and I was eating my breakfast, I was like, "Oh, I'm so hyped for this! I'm so hyped for this!" And I was looking at my list. I'm like, "This is mostly accurate, except for my number five."
Okay.
So it was number one was Lil Baby for like another year in a row. He was on
Okay.
number one. Number two was J. Cole. Number
Okay.
three was Ghostface Killer from Wu Tang Clan. Number four was Kendrick Lamar. Now
Okay.
this fifth one, now mind you, I've always been a fan of him, but Drake. I was not expecting Drake to be on my top five, but he was on my top five.
Good. He has some good songs.
He
Like
does.
people be hating on him, but he really kind of he been carrying for a while. You can rely on like one or two solid Drake songs.
Yeah, every year he ruled a whole decade. The 2010s was all Drake. That's all you hear on the radio. But then I digress. I'm not going to get to that whole tangent, but that was my top five. I thought my fifth one would either be Nas or Nipsey Hussle because people know me. I like listening to their music and whatnot. So, but yeah, that's all I got to say for that. 2025 Spotify rap, they're going to be a little better. Apple Music, hopefully yours is a little better as well.
Yes, I don't know what that was.
All right. Well, glad we got the blood flowing. We got a little laughter in. We always have good laughter when I'm on the phone with you or when I'm just in person with you. So that's always good to start off with.
Mhm.
But before we dive in to the beef of the interview, can you give a little bit of background of like where you're from, where you well, we already know where you attended school, it's right on the screen, but you know what I'm saying, like where you from, where you went to school and what was your degree?
Right. Okay. So I am from Huntsville, Alabama. Um, been in this area my whole life. I've lived in neighboring cities, but here I am back in Madison now. Not specifically Huntsville, but it's Huntsville. That's where it's gonna show on the map.
Yeah.
Um, I studied aerospace engineering and business. So, well, aerospace engineering, French as a minor, and business for my MBA. So, 4 years aero and then 1 year business. It was like a combo program at the university. Um, and what was your last question?
Yeah, that was the second part. It was just where you from, where you went to school, and what was your degree in. But was University of Alabama always your first choice, like coming out of high
Uh,
school?
that's a great question. I don't know.
It's been so long.
Man, so I'm the first, me and my brother are the first to ever go to college in our family.
Okay.
Uh, like extended university, going, staying in the dorm right after high school. So man, I was just trying to get to school. Everybody had always like talked about like Harvard and XYZ. Man, I wasn't doing none of that. I was, man, I'm just trying to get to school. Um I think Alabama just ended up being the pack because almost everybody from where I'm from goes to Bama. For me, I would go talk to my counselor in high school, and she actually had a good friend that worked at Bama. And I guess I made a good enough impression on her to where she talked to her friend about me, and her friend ended up like recruiting me. They hooked me up with some scholarships. I went down there and visited, and here I am. I did almost go to Tuskegee, but we're not gonna talk about why I didn't go.
So I'm gonna say you say aerospace. Like, we'll talk about that offline, but aerospace engineering,
Mhm.
and then going back to school a year after, was that always in your plan as well? Like, was engineering in the bigger picture of you going to college?
Oh yeah, 100%. So from a little kid, I have always been like one of those technical kids. Always been a nerd. I don't mind that. I used to hate that word, but now,
Now you embrace it.
man, anyways. um, but yeah, since a little kid, man, I've always been interested in that. Like elementary, middle school, I was in robotics teams. I went to several competitions. When I got to high school, I joined like the high school engineering academy and learned some CADs, different things. I was about 14 when I figured out I wanted to do aerospace. My dad's friend bought him a RC aircraft. My dad don't play with that stuff, so he gave it to me and my brother. Uh, and I loved it, man. I was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy." I tried to like take it apart and put it back. I broke it. Uh, but that led me to know like, I want to make one of these things and fly it. I remember that thought to this day. The thought was literally, oh my God, what if I could make one of these things and fly it myself? Um, so that's where engineering stemmed from.
And what about your MBA? Was that always in the plan as well?
That was too. Cause see, even though engineering is my passion, man, I was broke. Like I couldn't buy nothing. I'd be at school seeing all this stuff. I'm like, I want this. And I didn't have cash, you know. So I was like, and my parents are very much so like you work for what you want.
Mm.
They don't do handouts, right? You know, so I want something, I gotta go get it. So I would cut grass, rake people's yards and make some money so I could get what I want. And I was like, man, I need more of this. And I was like, man, I want some businesses too. And then when I got to school, I was like, well, before I got to school, I was like, I want to be an engineer, but I also want like an engineer, my own engineering business. Um, and I actually did not know about the MBA program that they had. It's called STEM Path at Alabama until I got there. So I was in the honors college, and that's important for a reason. We were in an honors college class, um, and this girl in there was mentioning how like she wants to get a business degree and how we can do it through the honors college. And so I was like, hmm, I'd never heard that. Um, I didn't know about emails. I didn't check my emails ever before. But it was in our emails, and she was like, "Yeah, just check your email." And I was like, "What?" And then I logged in my email. Um, I checked it, and she was right. I think the deadline had passed a little bit, but I was like, "Nah, I'm getting this." So I joined it because I was gonna get my MBA. I was gonna get a business degree regardless, you know. So to find out that I could do it in 5 was like, let's go.
Dope, dope. We're gonna talk about that a little later, but let's talk about your life on campus.
Okay.
What was your on-campus involvement outside of the academic space?
Okay, so biggest one where we know each other from
The obvious.
was the National Society of Black Engineers. Um, Probably the most important, no, definitely the most important thing college for me. Um, Outside of NESB, I was also a residential advisor for 3 years for the Honors College building. We have a multicultural engineering program center. At one point in time, it did host program. I actually worked there. I'd make sure it was clean. I'd help host programs. I'd help recruit people to come into that area, that space. Um, as time went on, those programs stopped, but I kind of tried my best to kind of keep it where it was, and go in there, bring people in there, kind of help people feel at home in the college. So
Got
those
you.
three things are probably the
Biggest ones.
yeah.
Got you. We already talked briefly about your degrees, but how was the transition between getting an engineering degree to going to an MBA program? Like, how was that transition for you?
Man, it was very different. You know, as an engineering student, anybody that's an engineering student is gonna understand what I mean. You have to be very thorough. So when the professor says read this before the next class, you got to read it. You know, you figure that out more so. I would say like your junior sophomore year. Um, and you got to be thorough. You got to read everything, even if you don't get to it by the next class. By the time you have a test or have to turn in an assignment, you better know it. And it's gonna take more than one time to read it most of the time. A lot of times it takes YouTube videos and all kinds of stuff, practice things. You got to do a lot to understand what's happening. And business just wasn't like that. But I went into business with that mindset. So I would take these very simple things, these concepts, and like try to thoroughly break it down and understand like an engineer. So whereas business is just not like that. Business is very straightforward. Um, what you're reading is what it means. You know, it's what it means. So it took me a few months, probably like half the first semester to realize that. And I was able to kind of relax. 'Cause at first I was stressing out because I was like, I'm not getting it, you know. But after the first about like 2 or 3 months, I was like, oh, I just don't have to do that much that I used to. Um, and so that was probably the biggest thing. The second big adjustment is engineering. You might have like two assignments a month from a professor, especially as you get closer to graduation. You
Hmm.
might have one assignment a month, but it's
Especially projects.
yeah, and it's gonna be this really tough thing that you literally have to. You gonna trust me? You gonna need the whole month to figure it out. It's just how it is. Business is like way less difficulty in the assignments, but you increase in the quantity.
Yeah.
So instead of one assignment for the month, you've got 30 and they're all due back to back to back for in all classes. And that was no, I was not used to that. I was not used to that. I was used to being able to, I'll come back to it and chill a little bit and then do some more work and turn it in. There are no breaks in business. It's just straight assignment, assignment, assignment. Only time you might get a break is if you have a test, then you have other classes.
Yeah.
Um, in a nutshell, a lot simpler, but increase in the amount of work you have to do. So honestly, I think that makes it just as hard. I think it was just as hard, just in a different way.
Got you. And now during your transition from undergrad to graduate school, you were also transitioning to your second term as your NESB chapter's president. So
Yeah.
how was that experience for you being president for back-to-back terms? And we'll start with there. How was your experience going from back-to-back terms? Like, were there things you did different? Did you do stuff the same? Like, how was it for you overall?
Yeah, I think I learned a lot in terms of working with a team. The first year was a bit tougher, especially coming into uh, a position of leadership that you were kind of hesitant to be in, you know. So it was a bit tough the first year in terms of working with a team. Um, and we can talk about that in more detail later, or I could dive into that now if you want me to. But the second year, I realized, okay, hey, I need everybody on board. And how I do that is by giving them ownership. So that's probably the biggest thing that I wanted to be different that I tried to implement. I wanted to give everybody ownership of their work while in unison with my vision as president. So I I heavily implemented the zones. And I used admin zone as like a round table of the big things we want to do. And I talked to each zone lead and I would be like, hey guys, well, what are you trying to accomplish? Okay. Here's what I'm trying to accomplish. Okay. Can you use your team to do this? And so I would meet with them biweekly and they would meet with their zones biweekly. And then we would meet as a e-board biweekly. So I think that that was a little bit more, but I think it was necessary because sometimes I think as board members, the less work, the better we
Yeah,
want. But in reality, the more we put in on the admin side, the better things turn out on the outside. So that I would say that was probably the biggest change I made. It's just heavy use of those zones. I also tried to really like encourage board members and zone leads to think for themselves. Like I did not want to tell people what to do. I think when you tell people what to do, even if your intentions are good, it just does not flow well. At least not for this generation. Um, I never really wanted to tell people what to do anyways. It just kind of when people didn't do things, it kind of made me feel like I had to. Um, but helping them realize like, hey, they can make their own decisions. They can take those actions, without me was a goal. Obviously, communicate like, hey, Malachi, I want to do XYZ. I'm more than likely going to tell you to do it unless I think it's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah. So, but other than that, um, I would say those are probably my two biggest changes.
got you. Now, teamwork was one part that I got out of, excuse me, excuse me, teamwork and delegation or delegating task. Was there anything else that you got out of your experience, personally or professionally that helped you with your life outside of school or even with your internship experiences?
Yeah, the organization. As president, your hat never really comes off. It's always work. There's always something for you to do. Um, whether anybody really sees that or not. And when you have a job, it's kind of the same way in terms of the organizing, and it also helped me view like my teams and organization as a whole. As a president, you have to understand the structure of your organization. So going into a job, I'm able to be like, okay, I'm this guy, this is that guy, this is her, this is them, So I know where I fit. So I think that helps me in terms of being able to really stress and not overstepping my boundaries as a person. Because I know what that's like also as a president when someone's doing something just impromptu, not communicating, and XYZ. Uh, and so I'm also a bit more forgiving for superiors because I know it's more work. I mean, you don't get paid more for any reason, you know, for no reason. You get paid more because you do more.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Hopefully. Um, another thing was expectations. I think the biggest lesson I learned for myself personally is managing expectations. A lot of times I would think that helping a board member be independent was me just expecting them to know what to do.
Yeah.
And that caused a lot of challenges in communication because I would say, hey guys, let's do this. And then they'd agree. And then we get there, and the result is either nothing like I expected or they just didn't do it. And then they're like, well, you didn't tell me what to do. So
Mm.
I felt like I was in the stool. I'm like, do I have to tell you what to do for you to do? But at the same time, I'm not communicating my expectation. Right. And so I'll say in the future, if I'm ever on any boards, hopefully I am. I want to do some more NSB work. I'm thinking about doing the PDC
Yeah.
committee.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
for yeah, the
Okay.
professional. I'm thinking about doing it. We'll see. Um, but this next time, if I'm asking someone to do it, I want to give them like basically a master class. I want to show you exactly how to do it, and then you'll be able to say, "Hey, I feel confident that I can do this." So I would say personal expectations and managing them with other people is the biggest lesson I learned.
Got you. Yeah, and that can work with both professional and personal because I know last time we were on the phone, I think you were babysitting your nieces, and you're just like saying, "Get down from there." Da, 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 da. You got to talk to people different ways, so you
Yeah.
can't talk to your nieces the same way you talk to your e-board, vice versa. So that's really good. But taking a step back, because we could talk about Nesby all day, but I really want to talk about your experience and how you prepared for graduation.
Yeah.
So what were some internships that helped you towards your both your undergraduate degree as well as your MBA?
Okay. All three of them. So I had three. I had Huntsville Utilities. I had PPG Aerospace and Aurora Flight Sciences. I expected for Huntsville Utilities, I expected to be an engineering intern. That is what I was told. I got there day one, dressed up, spiffy, nice, just graduated high school. I'm like, yeah, I'm already in it. Yeah. And the moment I got there, the guy there was ex-army. And he's like, you probably thought that you were gonna be XYZ today. Well, you're not. And he's like, and then he goes, welcome to corporate America. Sometimes things just don't go how you expect them. So if you don't like it, you can get out. I'm not shocked at this point because they told me I was doing engineering.
Yeah,
Then they assign everybody, and I got the water department, and I was nowhere near engineering. I was going to basically kind of be a janitor slash a groundskeeper for the summer. So that was a very humbling experience. I'd already done a lot of outside work, but to think you're going to do engineering work in high school, end up being a janitor was like, dang. I even I tried to get them to switch it, and the guy, like I called one of the ladies up there. She passed the phone to him. She passed the phone to this man. Like I'm in the middle of a conversation, and then it's just, hello, Malachi. Okay, I heard that you don't like this. Now Well, either you can take the job or you just won't have one this summer. I like, and I was like, you know what? Yes, sir. I'm okay. I'm going to take the job. Um, and that was a lesson in humility. Gave me a lot more respect for blue collar workers. I think people kind of heavily underestimate that type of work. Um, I realized very quickly, like, hey, any job is any job. Somebody's working, it doesn't matter what they're doing, they deserve a certain level of respect, especially people that are doing physical labor.
Mhm.
Um, so getting to school that helped me like work harder because I don't want to. I personally, I do like physical labor, but that's not the type of job I necessarily want. So that was motivate. That was partly motivation to be like, okay, Malachi, if you want to get to where you're going, you gotta work for it. It's not just gonna fall in your hand. Every time I didn't want to do an assignment, I'd be thinking back to cleaning them toilets. um, it also helped me in terms of like communication. It was my first time experience with like people older than me, like my parents' age, outside of my parents.
Yeah.
They would always be like, call me by my first name. I'd always be like Mr. their last name. They always wanted me to like speak up about things, and ask about things, which was a little awkward because I'm used to being a kid.
Yeah. 17, 18 years old. So that's understandable, especially straight out of high school. I'm not gonna lie, even the transition, this kind of a tangent. The transition from like high school to college was different too, because like this is a funny story. So I was in Calc 1, my first semester, and I didn't know we could just get up and like leave the classroom whenever we wanted to. So I raised my hand. I said, "Can I use the bathroom?" That was a humiliating experience. So I already know the transition was definitely different. I was 18 years old. Community college has to use the bathroom with people that are older than me in the classroom. So they're all looking at me weird. I'm like, ooh.
Bro, me too, man. I dressed up for the first day of school as a freshman. It's about because I was hanging out with people a couple days before,
Mm.
you know how schools have like their pre-events for freshmen or whatever. And I dressed up on the first day, and I already know a few people. And one guy sees me, he's like, "Bro, why are you dressed up?" I'm like, "It's first day of school, bro. This ain't high school." I'm like, "Well, just let me dress up, man. Dang, let me."
Yeah, let
But
me be.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Got you. What were the other internships you had? 'Cause I know you said
Okay.
you had three.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the second one was PPG Aerospace. I was a sophomore. And that was my first engineering internship. That was real engineering work. I was a process engineer. I worked in an airplane window manufacturing facility.
Nice.
Um, I learned how it comes in as raw glass and how they temper it, different chemicals that they use, how airplane windows are layered. We call them lights.
Hmm.
Typically, have three lights. Thicker windows have four or five. And they're stuck together by poly adhesives. Um, and they're heated, they're temperature controlled. They're all different kinds of shapes and sizes. There's raw, which is raw glass. There is assembly, and then there's finishing. I learned how each of those processes work, and I did a project in finishing, well, assembly slash finishing. That one helped me get a bigger picture of like actual plant work.
Hmm.
I was 19 years old, and I'm like not super, kind of like supervising people at like 50. And I'm supposed to be the engineer because I mean, as the intern, you're an intern, but they want you to act like an engineer. So they would actually have
Yeah.
go speak to workers and ask them what they're doing. So I see sometimes they would even have me say, well, suggest different methods, which is really awkward because these people might have been doing it for 10 years and they want me to come up with a solution until this guy is three times my age
Mm.
that he should do it different. So that helped me a lot with soft skills. Um, It also sharpened my technical skills. I had to track their daily rejects every single day for the entire plant. So if this was not done, oh my God. For the entire plant, every single morning, I had to go in and log every single reject that there was into a database so that they could collect the finances, so that they could check those parts and pieces. And I had to ascribe them so they could do like root cause analysis type stuff. Then I would have to go look at those rejects with an engineering team. So I did a lot. I had to pull together data with that. I had to find like leading causes, had to compare dollar amounts, had to come up with solutions to improve and how much money could be saved. I learned about Lean Six Sigma, Fishbone, Five Whys, that type of stuff. And that translated really well to school because it taught me how to think a little bit better when I got back to class. Like I was able to be like, okay, man, okay, so this is what this is like in the real world. Oh, this is a completely different topic that I might never come across. Even though it's in my curriculum, I just might never do this depending on what field I choose, or what job that I specify in. That's really that job experience, I would say, is probably the biggest 50-ish% of how I got to the job I just got with college.
Okay.
Mm. And then the last one was Aurora Flight Sciences. So this was after I graduated college, going into my MBA year. So the summer before I started my MBA, it was an MBA internship. And I didn't do any engineering. It was strictly business. And Nesby helped me most with that, because I worked with the executives at the company. My boss was the chief of staff. I got to meet with the CEO several occasions, CFO, the COO, lead quality person, chief engineers, technology. So I just got to talk to a lot of people that are like making $500,000 a year. I don't know how much, but I mean, it's an engineering company that sells airplanes. So, and I saw some of their houses, so they're making a lot of money, but they're willing to talk to me. So it was very interesting, um, to experience that. I was like, wow, why me? You know, um, met with a lot of that job had a lot of interns. None of my other internships had a lot. The Huntsville Utilities was just me. Um, PPG was two of us, and she was not an engineer, so
You didn't
never
see her
saw
that
her.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but this one, there was like eight of us, and we all were in like the same area. So I got to kind of bond in a team that wasn't a team outside of school, and yeah, outside of school. It was like I never experienced work friends, I guess, before. So that was
Mhm.
very new. Um, that helped me coming back, kind of loosen up on some stuff. You can be a leader, but you can also be fun at the same time. Now, don't go too far, but you can still be fun.
Oh yeah. Of course. Of course.
But you can still be fun. Um, that helped me a lot in coming back to class with like current topics. So as a business student, as a business somebody in business, you're gonna want to be on like the forefront of new technology. Business classes in college aren't always teaching new technology.
Yeah.
So I'm coming back to class. I know like way more about certain topics than other students because I actually had to like do it and use it. So it helped a lot with some assignments. Some assignments I didn't even have to like think because I already had kind of done it. Um, it helped even more with soft skills for sure. That was a step above. In terms of soft skills, it was definitely a step above a PPG. I mean, I
Hmm.
had to work to onload uh two of their programs. One was government, one was a commercial program onto a new risk tracking system. So I had to come in, learn that system, critique it, improve it, and kind of talk to program managers and kind of convince slash help them implement the system, explain it to them.
Mm.
and people making a lot of money. I'm explaining them the new system that they're gonna use, and there's sometimes there's pushback, which was interesting. Never experienced that before. Um, Sometimes there was definitely pushback. Sometimes there was some disagreements. Sometimes I didn't know the answer to a question. I'm like, okay, oh my God, what do I do? Um, so I would say it helped with classwork. They helped with soft skills, and it helped with pressure for sure.
Got you. Got you. Well, we're gonna stay on that topic of corporate life,
Mhm.
but before we even, this kind of goes into corporate life as well. But how was your support system throughout undergrad, whether personally from family, professionally, people from your peers or your professors? Like, how was your support system, and is it still strong to this day? Because this will go into like the next topic.
Yeah, family's always been there. If I if I call my dad, like, hey dad, I need you to come down here, he gonna pull up in 30 minutes. I'm on the way. It don't matter what's going on. And same for my mother. Um, so I've always had a strong support system when it comes to my family. But you can't take your family with you everywhere.
Yeah,
Right. So um for the first couple of years, it was it was kind of lonely in terms of engineering.
yeah,
I did have a good friend, my best friend really, to this day. Um, Me and him, we met freshman year. We kind of evolved into a friend group. So I had them, but in engineering, I was alone. Um, so in a lot of ways, that was kind of tough. Uh, that's how I ended up getting into Nesby. But I was the only, I didn't get any help for classwork. Um, a lot of people do not want to help you. They just want to do their own work. So that was new. That was definitely new. Um, no, it wasn't. It was kind of new.
Sound
It,
indecisive with your answer.
it was like, I'll say more so it's like next level.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like it was a little bit tougher than high school because I'm on a different stage where people don't really want to help you in high school either, but your work's not like that hard.
Yeah.
You
The
know?
workload isn't that hard. We'll say it like
Yeah.
that. The
I
workload
put
is not that hard.
the work is still hard, but the workload, like it's manageable. In college, man, people still didn't want to help, but now it's like way more work. Um, and I would say as you progress, a lot harder. So in terms of schoolwork, felt pretty alone. Um, but that's where I really learned how to be independent, and study and do what I had to do regardless of if I had help or not. Um, Either of nobody's in my family is engineers, so I can't just call up anybody and ask a question. I don't have any family members that are engineers, so I can't call them. Um, so that was very unique. Now I ended up that's how I ended up getting involved in Nesby though. At first, the I started going to the MEP Center. You remember that one?
What is it, multicultural?
Engineering Program Center,
Yeah.
short for MEP. So I started going there at first, because there was someone there who would start. She pulled me one day at one of the dining halls, and I just started going there. You know, still didn't really have anybody to kind of help me with anything, but a community started to develop of other people, more so mostly younger than me, um, that we, even though they couldn't necessarily help me, we could all relate. And that definitely that built over the years into Nesby to where I ended up becoming more so the helper. So this may sound a little sad, but I never really got that help. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
I learned how to be independent, and I always, to the day I graduated, I did my work alone. But I learned how to help others in that. I ended up becoming other people's support system, and helping them and giving them tips and ideas anytime that I could, because it's something I didn't have, and there was nobody really above me um, that I was close to like that could help. Like I'm sure there were a lot of Black engineers on campus, but at that time, our NSB just was not really like there like that. Like a lot of people had already decided, like, hey, well, it's not for me, or didn't associate. You get what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Trust me, I've been there with the whole rebuild after 2020 with
Yeah.
e-board as well as organization wise, so getting members to be involved, to build that community, like you said. So I definitely understand, overstand whatever other words can describe how I'm feeling. I know what you're going through, or I know what you went through with getting people to come back and build that community.
So you know what I mean. So um through that though, it did encourage me. Um, I would say I began to work harder because I didn't want them to see me because I definitely became somebody that people looked at to like, okay, if he can do it, then so can I. So that's mainly what I got in terms of a support system um from school. Um,
Got you.
so,
Got you. Yeah, I was gonna touch on that last point. You said you became basically a source for motivation, and inspiration for people to kind of keep going. And I definitely feel you on that because, like, even after I graduated, like when I got okay, let's flashback to 2023. When I was vice president, when I became vice president, around that time, I got my internship off from Apple for the summer 23. And people were like, "Oh man, he's working at Apple and he's VP at Nessie." Da, 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 da. They're like, "Yeah, he's a man, he's a man." And
oh,
then I finished that internship. I came out to campus. Everybody was like, "Man, how was the experience? Like, what are some tips I could do to work there? Like, what are tips can I use to work XYZ or whatever?" And I'm like, "This feels different." And of course, at the time when I came out to campus, I was president of the chapter. And now, after I got my full time job and I graduated and everything, people are still hitting me up for advice. And I feel like real important. I always felt important because, obviously being a student leader, that's a big responsibility. Not everybody can manage it all the time. So
yeah.
they give me like the props for it and like saying, man, you're doing really good, holding it down, all that. And I'm gonna do my best not to get on the tangent. But people call me out the blue. They'll text me saying, "Hey, how do I get an internship? How do I improve my programming skills? Like, when you took this class, what do you still have your notes?" Preference: I do not have any of my notes from school. After I graduated, all that stuff got deleted from my hard drive. Putting that out there. But yeah, I just felt like the man. It was feeling great. And even when I got to work and hearing all these good jobs, you're doing great. We really like your contribution from within work and outside of work of volunteering. And then even with NSB, because I'm on the professional board as well, and I'm on the FAMU National Alumni Association DC chapter executive board. I'm very involved. People know that. So being the man or being that someone people can come to really gives you motivation to keep going because you don't want to see them fail, or you don't want them to see you fail. So it makes you want to kind of not strive for perfection, but really put on like that smile, that positive look. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to get at. I was trying to say so many things at once, but I hope that made sense
Yeah.
to whoever's watching this.
It's a lot. It becomes a lot,
It's a lot.
after a while. It does. I agree.
Yeah, but patience is a virtue, I'll say, and
It's
independence is also good as well. Because after you graduate, it is a little bit you experience a little bit of isolation. I won't go too much into it. You experience a little bit of isolation because you're seeing your friends every day on campus. You're looking forward to come back fall semester. You're looking forward to homecoming, the football games, and all that. At least for me. But I digress with that. We can talk more about that offline. But speaking of support system and building off of that, I remember first time we talked a few months, or not a few months ago, a few weeks ago, like after we graduated and everything. You're giving me a whole background or like rundown of like what's been going on, and you've been experiencing some bumpy roads, or like I'll say it like this: you've been experiencing some turbulence, and I'll only say that because you work for an aerospace company. You've experienced turbulence.
oh
If
my
you,
God.
if you feel comfortable sharing, can you Can you
Yeah.
share what you've been going through? Because I feel like it's a very important topic. Well, once he explains it, you understand why I say this, why it was a very important topic. Because I remember you said you kind of felt you lost yourself and you kind of had to take some time to reflect and come back and present yourself a better way. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, never mind being honest. I think that's what I try to offer uh the most to people. You don't get anywhere lying, you know. But yeah, so I mean, I went through 4 years of college, aerospace engineering, um, did my best, made president's list, I did everything that I was told to do,
Yeah.
that I was supposed to do. Right. Then I also got my MBA, right? Became the SB president, 2 years,
Two-time this president.
um, vice president before and the senator before. So I'm like, hey, got this. I got an internship, Aurora. Remember I mentioned that. Uh,
Mm,
and that was the summer after I graduated. So I was looking at that company to hire me, but they didn't. And I was reaching out. And they didn't let me know until January that they were not going to. And I was like, dang, man, that threw a big wrench in my plans. Like I told you, I know in a nutshell what I want to do. How I'm gonna get there, it can vary, but I know what I want to do. Um, so I threw a wrench in there because I'm like, that wasn't part of the plan. Um, and I started applying for jobs in January. I graduate in May. So I'm like, okay, I gotta find something different. So I'm hitting up different companies that were interested beforehand, positions.
yeah.
I'm applying for new jobs, positions filled, nobody's hiring, or I get the interview and won't progress past certain areas. And I'm just like, man, what's going on? Um, for a while while I was in school, I kept focusing on school. I was like, I apply for jobs here and there, but you're in school, you quite literally can't just stop working. You gotta keep working and apply for jobs when you can. So sometimes you just might not be able to like that. But when I graduated and I came home and I didn't have a job, it was like the end of the world. I was like, oh my God. I did not work all this time just to not be able to find a job.
Yeah.
um, so currently I do pest control. So my family business, we are a pest control company. And I'm a technician. And I work also part with like the finance and operations. But technician work is 75% physical, 25% um like computer brainstorming, thinking like that. But the majority of it is physically moving and doing certain things. Um, and I went from engineer, basically kind of like being on top of the world in my mind and for my plans to nowhere near what I imagined.
Yeah, kind of like restart. Restart. I'm going to kind of make that analogy, parallel to what you said earlier about your first internship, feeling like you're at that level again. You're like, man, all this work, I'm not even in engineering yet. So you kind of like went back to square one, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. And everybody's like, well, the NBA makes you way more attractive. Where? Uh, so I'm like, I'm thinking it's gonna be easy to just boom and get the job, and that just is not true. Not true at all. Um, and I was mad for a while, man. I was pretty mad, just kind of mad at how things was going. You know, there's no way I did all of that for nothing. How do I not have some? And those thoughts just kept ringing in my head, kept ringing. And when you get angry or when you feel a negative emotion in general, it's not just anger, that's a negative emotion. We all know that. Whenever you experience a negative emotion, um, you have to be careful because the more you allow yourself to embrace that emotion, um, not saying that you shouldn't process it, right? But the more that you let that emotion kind of stir in the pot, other things that are good about you fall off. they start to fade. For example, like if you're mad about a certain situation all the time, you might come off rude in your conversation with other people, or certain things that you used to do that would make you happy, you might stop doing them,
Mm.
or you might stop being creative, or you might stop thinking about how you can maneuver your way out of this situation. So basically, in very simple terms, it gets you nowhere. And I realized that, man, like 3 or 4 months in, just mad. I would try not to be mad. Like I didn't wake up every day just like,
Like, oh, turn to the Incredible Hulk. All that.
I would wake up in the morning trying to be happy, but then now I'm out here doing this. I just it's like, for real.
Hmm.
And I would just get mad, man. I would. Um, and it wasn't until I realized that like a lot of other stuff that I used to do, I just like stopped. Like I wouldn't really try to talk to nobody like that. Like, and not being mean to them. I just was so consumed with
Your anger and frustration.
that I'm like, I don't want to talk right now.
Yeah.
Mm. When it came to applying for jobs, one of the it honestly felt heartbreaking to me. I had to consider applying for jobs that I didn't even want to do. You know what I'm saying? That was hard.
Hmm.
Like I know what I want to do, so why am I applying for different things that
And
I'm
nothing
not?
to do with what you
Yeah,
want to do.
yeah. And so sometimes I'll be like trying to apply, I can't even finish the application, finish shut the laptop.
Yeah.
um, I was just it was hard. And it was like that for a while, but I mean, I'm never gonna give up. So I open it back up and fill it out, and do what I needed to do. Um, and it wasn't until like 3 or 4 months in, man, where I was just like a thought in my mind was, man, what happened to like all your friends?
Yeah.
uh, what happened to like your plans, your ideas, your excitement, your joy, all the creativity? Yeah, because when you're mad, you are not creative. You are the
Yeah.
furthest from creative because you're frustrated. Um, and I was like, man, I need that back. I don't feel like me, not how I usually am, you know. And mind you, I'm praying through this the whole time. I know that this is a trial, so I'm praying. I'm asking Yah, like, what do you want me to learn? What do you want me to take from this? Um, and I came to a resolve a little while later that no matter what I'm doing, I'm gonna be happy about it. And I'm gonna try my best because being angry about it, being mad about it, being frustrated about it isn't going to get me anywhere. And a lot of times, simply because we're not doing what we want to do, has nothing to do with having somewhere to live, having food to eat, being around family, and having what you need. And I had everything I needed. I had a home, family, clothes, food, phone, music, TV, laptop. I mean, people would kill to literally have what I got. So really thinking about it, I was like, man, I'm being a little spoiled,
Mm.
being a little entitled, being selfish because I don't have what I want. It's kind of like a little kid again. Um, and I realized that, and I was like, man, gotta snap out of this because if I don't, I'm gonna end up just like people in the Bible. After they complained so many times, they ended up dying. Right? He said, you're gonna stay here for all y'all gonna die. This whole generation is gonna die here. 40 years. Not a single one of y'all is going over there, but your kids will. The very kids you said wouldn't be able to, they're gonna go. And at a certain point, we have to realize either we straighten up or we become like them. So if I didn't snap out of my anger, my frustration, being selfish, being entitled, I was not going to find anything. I was going to stay exactly where I was. I wasn't going to get anything, get an opportunity because I don't have the right mindset. not being grateful. Um, and about like 4 or 5 months, a couple months after that, my mindset is it's improving. I'm waking up. I got energy. I'm trying. Even if I get a little bothered or discouraged, I try to overcome it and push past it. Um, until I got to the point. I'm still applying for jobs, applying for more jobs. I'm reaching out to people again. I'm trying to talk to people. I'm trying to be, enthusiastic, try, whatever I gotta do, I'm gonna do it. Um, I went back to my school's career fair, which was kind of tough because like you don't have a job.
It was a
Not
hard pill to swallow.
yeah, yeah. Um, and I got to one point, I was in the tub, and I prayed, or in the shower, and I was like, yeah, if I'm supposed to have a job, they'll reach out to me. And I didn't apply like for any more other positions. I just stopped.
Mm,
Stopped. Um, and I just got up and started went to work every day. And then I got a call while I was on a vacation, uh, or a text, and then a phone call about a job, you know. And this job was offered to me in the past, but I went with Aurora for the internship. I didn't want to kind of shoot myself in the foot by dipping somewhere else where I'm finna intern at. So and take it. Um, and he gave me that job. What I prayed about was very specific, very detailed. Everything happened exactly all the way down to the salary, for what I wanted. Um, and it was just an incredible experience. It was a very humbling experience. I'm forever grateful for it because I think another big part of that is knowing that it is not us who help. We don't help. We can't help ourselves. It's all him.
mm.
And you're not gonna get anything unless he gives it to you. So your attitude, how you carry yourself, what you think about, what you're complaining about, you got to pay attention to it.
Got you. Yeah, because I really wanted to make sure that's touched on because even I had, those bumpy roads last school year, kind of going back in the school year with a big head saying, like, man, I'm going to get a return offer, XYZ, and then it just doesn't happen. I think it's important to talk about, I don't want to say the failures, but the shortcomings
Mhm.
and not reaching our expectation at the time. And then that some things just take a little bit to process and actually be aligned with what you want to do in life.
Yeah.
So, and mind y'all, this is the first time Malachi and I are catching up in a while, and I understood because I know life is just life. Like I don't even know that's a phrase. Life is just lifing sometimes. He said, "Yeah, man, I had to go take a break, find myself. I didn't realize how long it's been." Kind of like when he said, "Man, what happened to your friends?" Like I'm glad, long story short, I'm glad that you were able to get all that funk and then you've ended with I got the job too that I wanted to get. So I'm just glad you're in the position you are in now. And definitely definitely staying patient and remembering like the little things in life that like make you happy helps you get through those certain things.
Right. And
Um
that would be my biggest tip. Every day, my dad would be like, "You're not patient. You're being impatient." He's like, "Wait, Malachi, I'm telling you." He's like, "You're selling yourself short." He said, "You not." He was telling me, he's like, "You're not behind at all. You right on time. You got all the time in the world.
mm,
Three, and you got 2 degrees. That age, you're gonna be fine." And sometimes as college students, we're not realistic about certain things. Um, Partly because I mean we're young, we're not there yet. So my tip to a upcoming graduate is if you don't have a job before you finish school, you don't have to panic. You don't have to go through the process I went through. If you don't get the job that you want, do what you got to do.
mm,
In fact, enjoy it because while you may be looking for that job that you want, think you maybe not think about the responsibilities you have when you get it. Whereas if you can go home, you can be a kid again. You know, your parents may take their responsibility, or a sibling, or other people, or family and friends. You know, you may not have to bear the same weight that you would just try to get. Everything is not what you think it is, you know. Um, but I would say if you don't get where you're trying to get to, no need to worry. There's one lady that I met at the career fair told me it took her 2 years to get a job in her field. I waited 7 months, you know. Took her 2 years.
It took me about 7 months as well, I want to say. Around
Yeah.
that, yeah, about 7 months.
And a lot of people have this like idea or misconception that the moment you graduate, boom, because there, trust me, there are going to be some people who have a job when they graduate, but you don't know what happened beforehand. You don't know who they know. You don't know if their parents work there, or their cousin, or family and friends. You don't know if they got that internship as a freshman and have been working there, putting in the time to get that job. You don't know what those people did to get there. Their road could have been tougher or just as rough as yours. All you know is what you experienced, you know. So don't look at other people and what they got going on, their accomplishments, and well, he's getting this, why am I not that is not the right mindset to have. Now, I personally was happy for people um getting stuff while I didn't get anything. I would sometimes be like, dang, where's mine? You know, I ain't want what they got. I want what I want. But sometimes you can feel a little left out like that. Okay, he winning, she winning. Where my win at? Where my W at? You just
Yeah,
if you're not there yet, it's something that you need to be learning. It's
got you.
something that you need to be learning. And if you haven't learned it, if you still got a bad attitude about it, frustrated, angry about it, it's never gonna happen.
Yeah. But let's end this on a positive note. So, what's the move? Like, what's the? I see you got the hat on, but like, what's your role? Like, what you gonna be doing, and when are you starting?
Okay, okay. So the good stuff. So, like I said, PPG and Nesby and all of it, I guess, are why I got the job. So, um, Nesby, we're gonna start with Nesby. So the Kansas City, that was my favorite one for sure.
Last year,
Yeah, that was way
2023.
okay. I ain't gonna diss Atlanta, but it was way better than Atlanta.
I agree. I'll co-sign that for sure.
Way not the convention, but like the
The
time and life
experience.
and people and never being that far in the states. That was like,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and I went to the RTX table and talked to a guy, and he actually mentioned the job that I got now. At the time, I was like, nah, because I didn't know about leaving, traveling, all that stuff. Um, but that's where it started. I turned it down. I did.
Okay.
But 2 years, speed run passed by. Here we are now. I reached back out a couple times. Um, and I'm not gonna get into too details,
Hmm.
but I applied again, and they reached out to me. The same guy from
Two
2020.
years ago or a
Yeah,
year ago.
basically two.
Yeah. At this point,
Two
it's
and
two
a half,
years.
two and a half, two.
Yeah.
And he hit me up, and I'm like, oh snap! Like, dang, okay. Um, call him, or I text him, calls me, and like, we want to interview. Yeah, let's do it. They interview me. In the interview, I talk about I had to give a presentation. So it is a rotational engineering position in aerospace manufacturing. So I had to give a presentation on the steps I would take as a manufacturing or an industrial engineer, but more so manufacturing engineer. Uh,
Mm.
and I gave the presentation, and then they started asking me questions, and they asked me how I knew X, Y, Z, da, da, da. Well, that goes all the way back to PPG. I know what the manufacturing environment looks like. I know what needs to be done. I know how to keep up with the information, the data, the analysis, the root causes. I know how to do all that. So that is going to be, I'm not going to say an easy transition, but it's definitely going to give me some support. So I'm not coming in like blind. I have experience in that arena. Then on the other side, I'm in a cohort of very few people, um, less than 15. And it is a part of, I think, being in that cohort is past leadership experiences. So and how your ability to work in a team. So that's where Nesby came in, being a president, something like making the agendas, making the content, the meetings to talk to people, how to handle conflict, how to handle when people don't like you, how you just continue to work and push past those things, right? But maintain respect. Um, all of those things culminated into this job. And like I said, so it's a manufacturing engineering position. So I will be manufacturing aerospace products, or I won't literally be doing it, but I will be a key person in that process of probably like tooling designs or various programs, working with people on the floor, XYZ. Um, I start January 31st. As far more on the job description, it's more than that, but that's the basics of the job.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I start January 31st. My first rotation is in Iowa, and I will have two more rotations, and I'll graduate from the program for 2 years.
Got you. Well,
Mhm.
Malachi, you already know I'm gonna be supporting you from afar, from the nosebleed. You know, I'm residing in Virginia. Iowa's mad far from Virginia and stuff. So you already know you have my support, and I already know the people watching this. Hopefully, they got something out of this, and will be right behind you, even if they're watching you from afar. But yeah, I'm wishing you the best of luck with that. You know, we'll still stay in touch. We still talk like almost every week. So you know what I'm saying? Like we'll be with each other on the come up there
You
within
already
our
know.
because I'm about 6 months into my professional career. You're about to get started for real with your professional career. But is there any other last minute remarks or any questions you want to prompt to me or prompt to the audience? Give something to think about before we log off.
Yeah. Before I do, DC is where I want to be at.
Yeah.
I wanted a job in DC so bad. I just like that area. I don't know. I don't know. I'm like magneted to it. So I'm probably gonna go down there. Anyway, I'm probably gonna fly there at least once or twice.
Got
Uh,
you.
but and I gotta see people. She gonna be grown with
Yeah,
people
yeah.
after to come. Uh, but remarks. Hmm,
Life lessons you want to share, words of encouragement.
yeah, just keep going. Um, Sometimes you don't get past things until you face them head on. No, all the time. You don't get past it until you face it head on. You have to face things head on. And don't lie to yourself. Never lie to yourself. You don't want to develop that habit. You don't want to be around people who develop a habit. Not that you should like be like, you are a pariah, get away from me. But if you see somebody lying to themselves, address it. That's part of what will make you a leader. But if you ever feel like you are not progressing, take a good look at yourself about things you know about yourself and ask yourself, did I ignore this at one point? Because odds are you have. If you're stuck somewhere along the lines, your brain told you you need to step past this and you didn't, and you went so long that you forgot. So anytime you are trying to progress, you gotta face it head on. If it hurts, it's gotta hurt. If you want to cry and you're turning away because you don't want to cry, you gotta look at it and cry. You gotta open the laptop back up. And sometimes a laptop can feel like it's 1,000 pounds. Sometimes it feels like you can't do it, but you gotta do it.
Mm,
So that's my final remark.
got you.
And oh, hold on.
Go
And shout out
ahead.
to Rahsaan for having me on here. I really appreciate it. I think what you're doing is great. Can't wait to see this get big. Keep on doing it. You got to be consistent with it. Thank you, man.
For sure. Yeah, Malachi, as per usual, you always have words of encouragement. You gave me words of encouragement when I was vice president. You gave me words of encouragement when I was president. So, and you still give me words of encouragement now from our various conversations, even from this interview. But yeah, I appreciate you for being on, taking the time out. But yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how to properly end these videos without saying like, comment, subscribe, all that. Da, 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 da. Because everybody does it. So I'm gonna come up with something eventually. I'm 14 episodes in, 13 episodes in. I still don't know how to end this. Anyway, once again, appreciate you. If you like this video, first off, thank you for tuning in. If you made it this far in the video, if you liked it, if you like this video, drop a like, comment, subscribe, and share with a friend, whether they're in school or they're getting to that transition phase in life of getting into corporate or real world. But until then, I hope to see you all on future episodes, and welcome back to the R.A.H podcast. Peace out, y'all.